Penn State and Notre Dame come up with huge Saturday night wins in college football. Brett Hundley, yeah, he's no Deshaun Watson. These London games, I mean, seriously, are they all blowouts? Steve Sarkisian, I'm a Jet fan. I hope he doesn't get fired this week, but he should be. And Andy Dalton, Marvin Lewis, come on, Bengals fans. We'll also take a look at the Monday Night Football game with special guest Ken Marangolo from First Amendment Sports and Fantasy Football with Jamal Murphy. As the OFN on PSN starts now. All right, it is the 23rd of October, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, for our weekend review here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. More injuries to talk about, more headlines, and yes, again, we will preview the Monday night game between the Redskins and the Eagles with Ken Marangolo in about 15 minutes. Quickly in college football, remember I said there wasn't a whole lot of big games in college football over the last several weeks, and there weren't. I never looked at the Notre Dame, USC, Michigan, Penn State games as really big games because, how can anybody not be disappointed with USC? And who really wants to watch Michigan play with John O'Corn quarterback? So what happened was supposed to happen. Notre Dame beat up on USC and Penn State crushed Michigan. So not unexpected. But we have some really good games coming up this week, and we'll talk more about the college football games later on in the week. We have our college football preview on Friday. So, we'll get into that later in the week. But anyway, big win for Penn State, our preseason national championship pick. And now the question, as we have pinpointed all season with Penn State, is these three games, what happens after Michigan? Do they go into Ohio State? Ohio State gets revenge, and unless Ohio State loses the rest of the season, is that it for Penn State? Or can two Big Ten teams make the playoffs? Yeah, I think they can. If Penn State loses to Ohio State in Ohio State, and it's a relatively close game, and Penn State does not lose a game the rest of the season, and nor does Ohio State, no reason to think that we can't have Ohio State and Penn State in the playoffs. Now, I'll say this, though. If Wisconsin doesn't lose a game until the Big Ten championship game, then Penn State's done. Because there's no way that – what they could do is they could go, okay, Wisconsin's in and Penn State's in. But as we've said before, there's no way I see Ohio State beating out Penn State, beating them, playing in the Big Ten championship game, and Penn State leapfrogging over Ohio State into the playoffs the way Ohio State did last year. I don't see it. I'm not saying I would rule it out. I just don't see it. So if Penn State loses against Ohio State, and I'm not going to sit here and predict that they're going to win, because I say all the time, you can't expect every college football team to go undefeated. You just can't. Matter of fact, if you look over the last I don't even have to look. I know over the last 5, 6, 7 years, teams win more national championships in college football with a loss. It just happens. You're going to lose. It all depends on when you lose and all that other stuff, and whether or not you're going to get a break from the committee. So I don't know how it'll all turn out. I just believe that Penn State is a better team than Ohio State, still do. But even if they do win and beat Ohio State, they would still have to go to Michigan State on the third week after beating Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back. And that is, as we've said all season, a major trap game. Now, it does not become a trap game if they lose to Ohio State. Psychologically, they would be more prepared to play Michigan State if they lose to Ohio State, because they know their season's on the line. For Ohio State, they've had the week off to prepare for Penn State and the revenge game. But look, I'm not putting Ohio State. I still think that even if Ohio State beats Penn State, that I still believe Penn State will find a way to the playoffs and a national championship. And that is because I still think that there is a very good possibility Ohio State would lose to either Iowa, Michigan State, or Michigan. So I've seen it happen before with Ohio State. They're not, look, they dominate these little 38-point favorite teams. They do it on purpose to make the committee think they're a better team than they are. And then whenever they step up a competition, we find out this particular group Now, I'm not saying every Ohio State team, but definitely the team that we've seen since the national championship win. This has just not been that team. So, but we'll see. Great game. We'll talk more about that later in the week. And for Notre Dame, it's good for college football when Notre Dame's playing well, and they deserved it. They kicked USC's butt. And look, is that they got that running game going. The offensive line is solid. You've got between Josh Adams and Wimbush behind center. Even Wimbush made a couple of good throws in the game. They're gaining more confidence right now. And boy, they have a huge game. Talk about a great game. North Carolina State at home against Notre Dame. Looking forward to that. Bradley Chubb at NC State, one of the top. Actually, it's Dan Shanka's top senior defensive end prospect. And we talked about Bradley Chubb with Dan Shanka earlier today on our new OFN scouting section interview where Dan profiles players. So we profiled Bradley Chubb. That'll be posted up on demand a little bit later on at Ourlads. But a huge game for NC State and Notre Dame coming up this week. But later on in the season, Notre Dame has still got to go and go to Miami and Stanford, sandwiched in between always underrated Navy. So that's not going to be easy for Notre Dame. Now, do I think Notre Dame is a playoff team right now? Well, look, they can't lose. I mean, Notre Dame is not going to the playoffs unless they go undefeated the rest of the way, and I don't see that. There's just too many other good teams ahead of them. I can't see them beating NC State, at Miami, at Stanford. I mean, they could lose one of those games. I could see them going – I think they're playing well enough that best case scenario, I could see them going whatever that would be, 5-1. I mean, 4-1. I could see that, best case scenario. But because that's actually what I see them doing. They're going to be probably 4-1, maybe 3-2. It all depends if they beat NC State. I mean, I don't know who's better. I think that's going to be a great game. I think that's a pick'em game. I have no idea what the line is, but that should be a pick'em game. I know it won't be. Notre Dame will be favorite, but NC State, you know what? If Notre Dame's favorite by more than 3 or 4, NC State would be a good play because that's a good football team. That's going to be a good game. So anyway, good games coming up. Looking forward to it. And yeah, I guess John O'Corn is still the quarterback at Michigan. So, attaboy, Jim Harbaugh. Attaboy, my boy. Even though you get these Michigan trollers. I mean, seriously, you get some of them that are like, oh, Jim Harbaugh this and Jim Harbaugh that. I mean, not like I do. Like me, I'm just being critical of him with the quarterback position. But I always preface it by talking about how much I respect him, how much that there's no other coach I want at Michigan, and that they're going to win with him at Michigan because sooner or later the young quarterbacks will play. But you get some of these people that are just, it's like they act like that maybe he's not the answer there. I mean, seriously. I mean, are you kidding me? And by the way, this is supposed to be a rebuilding year at Michigan. They lost like everybody on defense, except for, look, they have good talent there, but all the talent they have, they're young kids besides Hurst. I mean, Gary, he ain't coming out of the draft this year. He's too young. So once they get Peters or McCaffrey in there, they're going to be just fine. But I don't know how you rip Jim Harbaugh if you're a Michigan fan. With the coaches that program has had over the years, I don't know how you do that. All right, so in the NFL, look, the London situation, and I know there's another game this week. And I think it's Cleveland. Look, as far as I'm concerned, every time there's a London game from now on, and statistically speaking, as you know, I'm a statistically speaking trendy kind of guy, that I'm just going to go ahead and go for the blowout. That's it. I'm going to go for one team won't show up. The only question is, which team will that be? That's it. Not that that's an easy proposition, because it's not. But I'm not going to worry about the spread. I'm just going to go, okay, this is the team I think is going to win. If I think they're going to win, then they should blow them out. Because it seems like one team can't show up in London. I don't know why that is. It's like the Super Bowl of past days when you would have these games in these unique situation settings, and because it's a build up there, and I don't know what they do. I don't know. So one of these teams somehow wind up getting distracted. I don't know. Now I get the Carson Palmer injury thing, but they weren't doing anything before he got hurt. It looked nothing like the team that we saw against Tampa Bay with Adrian Peterson coming in. And now with Palmer out, we'll talk to Jamal about that in about a half hour. I mean, they're done. And this is another team that we talked about with the whole backup quarterback situation. I mean, I used to be a Drew Stanton fan. I really thought Drew Stanton was going to be a good backup quarterback because early on in his career, he was. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he just doesn't take to Bruce Arians' system because ever since Arians has been there, he just hasn't been the same guy. I mean, I don't. And again, I'm only talking about backup. But he comes in now anytime, and I have no reason to believe that he's going to do anything. It's just another weak backup quarterback. Gabbard actually played halfway decent in the preseason. I wouldn't be surprised if Blaine Gabbard played. And he deserves a shot. Give him a shot with Arians and with Peterson and Fitzgerald and John Brown, and let's see what he can do. Because he's got to look, to me, there's better upside there than Drew Stanton. And look, again with Steve Sarkisian, how many weeks will we keep talking about it? We preview the NFL with Tony Mahee every Thursday. Every week we talk about it. What is it going to take for Steve Sarkisian to get fired? How much more proof does Dan Quinn need? Okay, what are we doing? What are you doing? I mean, look at the difference from this year to last year. And yes, in some respect, you have to throw in that there is a confidence issue, no doubt. How does that not play in? But I am not going to believe that this team, this offense, would be like this if Kyle Shanahan was still there. They are. I mean, did you see the play on 4th down yesterday? I mean, a receiver handoff on the biggest play of the game for Atlanta to try to get a touchdown. They have Tevin Coleman, Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman. And at the goal line, on the biggest play of the game, he hands the ball to a receiver. Are you kidding me? I mean, how many times have we seen the Falcons down like there in one of those situations over the last year or two with Freeman? And hey, you give him 1 or 2 chances and he's in the end zone. And this is what we talked about last year, why Quinn made such a big difference with this team over the last couple of years, because they had turned into a mentally tough team, a team that could actually get the short yards, a team that could be physical at the line of scrimmage. What has happened? And Claiborne, that is, nobody talked about it, but they should have. Adrian Claiborne was headhunting. Adrian Claiborne was trying to knock Tom Brady out for the year. There is no doubt about that. And for him to be selfish like that, you always hear about how these players, and there's all the NFL players, they're this big loving, especially now, they all hold hands. They're such a loving family, the NFL family. They're united as one. And here's Adrian Claiborne barreling down on Tom Brady, trying to knock his head off. Now, was it really outrageous as far as the hit? No. But what it was so obvious as far as how he hit Brady, because he goes, you see he was whatever, he's charging at him, ready to make the sack. He is, and Brady didn't move around. Okay, you know the situations where the quarterback, he ducks or he does something with he's trying to get out of the way, and you go, oh, well, come on. I mean, that's just, what are you going to do? There's nothing he can do, the defender. And then the other situation is you see the ones that you just, oh, my God. I mean, he just like headhunting, sort of like Vontez Burfict style. But this one was obvious in the way that he was charging at him, and he never tried to tackle him like tackling 101. Like, did you ever hear of lowering your head a little bit, wrapping the quarterback, you know, in a tackling form, a basic tackling hug form, and you can even, if you want to, you can drive him. Now, it wouldn't be a good idea, of course, to power drive him, but you drive him with the tackle. You go full speed, you go down, you hit him, you wrap him, boom. That's a tackle. But what does he do? He makes no attempt to lower himself. None. He just goes head on into his chin, helmet to helmet. Not obvious enough where it looks like he's being Vontez Perfect, or Jack Tatum, but enough where what are you doing? Trying to knock him out. That's what you're doing. You're trying to Aaron Rodgers him. You want him out. You're sick of the Patriots. And you know what? I know a lot of people out there might be like, oh, I like the fact that the Falcons went for it on 4th and 7. They were aggressive. That's what you should do to beat the Patriots. I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because when you do that, to me, sign of desperation. If it's 4th and 1 at midfield, even 4th and 2, and you want to go for it, fine. There's a lot of teams that go for it at 4th and 2, 4th and 1, that sort of situation around midfield. I'm okay with that. Big game, you want a momentum. 4th and 7. Really? I mean, I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever seen that. Ever. A team go for it early in the game, right around midfield, 4th and 7. To me, I'm telling you, it just spelled of desperation. And I don't think that's a smart way to play football, because that is almost like, oh, we're not good enough, so we have to do special things to beat you. I'm sorry, that's the way I'm looking at it. That's the way I feel. Oh, look, they're going for it on 4th and 7. Boy, man, they really must be desperate. They really must want this one so bad that they're going to do anything. And we're going to knock quarterbacks out if we can. We're going to try handing the ball off to receivers. I mean, it was terrible. Not that going for it on 4th down was Sarkisian's call. It was just bad. And sorry, but I mean, I don't think Jet fans should be panicking at all about playing the Falcons. Look, I don't see the Falcons turning this over at all. Sorry, I don't. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen. Maybe it will. It might only take a game. One game, one situation, everything starts clicking. Somehow, whatever Sarkisian's trying to do actually starts working, and here they go. It's a long season. It's a talented team. But right now, I don't see it. History is really behind them. And I don't see why would you look at this Falcon team right now and go, oh, yeah, wow, Falcons and Jets. Oh, wow, Falcons are just too talented for the Jets right now. I don't know. I mean, from a view, they've lost 3 straight games to AFC East teams. They couldn't beat the Dolphins at home. They couldn't beat the Bills at home. So why would this be a game where the Jets couldn't win? That's not speaking very highly of the Falcons right now. So hold on to Steve Sarkisian. The longer you do, the longer this is a mess, the longer the Falcons are going to put themselves in a hole that they just can't get out of. And that's coming soon. And speaking of holes, boy, Bengals fans, I always got to have one of these games every once in a while to remind me what's going on in Cincinnati with the whole Marvin Lewis, Andy Dalton thing. And it's usually just when the Bengals start to look pretty good, and then they play the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they play like that, and especially Dalton, and you go, oh yeah, right, I forgot. This is Marvin Lewis, this is Andy Dalton, this is the Bengals. And the thing is that they have a decent group of people that as far as their scouting, the way they put that team together, there's nothing wrong there in that respect. But right now, it's all about they have to start with getting rid of Lewis, because as long as Lewis is there, it looks like Dalton's going to be the quarterback. And I'm sorry, but you can't keep going on with Andy Dalton and not know what you're going to get out of A.J. McCarron before letting A.J. McCarron go. You can't do that. I mean, how much more proof do you need that Andy Dalton is who Andy Dalton is? And whatever that is, you know what it is. So you need to find out whether McCarron is capable of being better. And you don't do that in December. So I really have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what it would be like to be a Bengals fan. I have my own problems, but I don't know. It's like having the same coach year after year. I guess if Rex Ryan was still there with the Jets, and I'd be going, what are we doing? I guess if I had to think about that, trust me, I have my own problems. I mean, my quarterbacks that I've had to watch, going back for all of my teams, because being from New Jersey, so I root for Rutgers. But again, as I've said this story before, because I'm from New Jersey and I'm a Rutgers, a loyal New Jersey fan, there had to be a real team for me, so that was Michigan. And then I've got the Jets. So when I look at those three teams, just take a look at the last few years of what I have had to endure at the quarterback position. I mean, Rutgers just speaks for itself. Okay. So with Michigan, I mean, Wilton Spate and now John O'Korn. And of course, before that, I mean, the team was just pretty bad itself, and most of the quarterbacks weren't very good. As soon as they made the decision to go to Rich Rodriguez, everything changed. And they lost the momentum of all the great pro-style quarterbacks that came from Michigan. And they've never been able to regain that momentum, even though they're back to going to quarterbacks that have a pro-style effect. And then the Jets, I've had to do it with Ryan Fitzpatrick for 2 years, pleading for them to stop it. Please stop it. Please stop this. Didn't help. And now I'm dealing with Josh McCown. And it's the same thing. He's just older and maybe a nicer guy. But it's the same thing. Let's hover a little under 500. Let's play good enough that he gets to stay a quarterback, and I got to deal with it, watching it every week. I mean, I'm sorry. I between Michigan, Rutgers, and the Jets over the last few years, and all three can go to the backup. All of them. See, Rutgers has a freshman that is going to be their quarterback. See, he's their future. They got this kid who came in a few weeks ago against an FCS team. And what did he have? Like 6 rushing touchdowns? I know it's FCS. I get that. But 6 touchdowns is 6 touchdowns. And considering the guy who's playing now for them, the only thing he can really do is kind of run around too. He throws the ball every once in a while, and he doesn't throw very well. I'm like, well, why wouldn't Jonathan Lewis be any better? How could he be that much worse? I mean, sure. I mean, maybe if he could turn the ball over, I get it. But I mean, isn't that the coach's job to make sure that there's certain things he can or cannot do? I don't care if he winds up throwing the ball 4 times, like Navy or something. It's better than what they have right now with And then I go with Michigan, with O'Korn. I mean, here I got Peters and McCaffrey on the sideline, and I got to deal with Spate first, and now O'Corn. And he won't put Peters and McCaffrey in. And then with the Jets, whenever there was a chance to bring in Geno or Petty last year, the last couple of years, it's like as soon as they got in, they'd get hurt. If Geno's in for like a quarter or two, then he gets hurt. Petty comes in, he got hurt twice. Back to Fitzpatrick, back to Fitzpatrick, back to Fitzpatrick. That's like what I fear now, is that as soon as McCown winds up being replaced, Petty gets his shot. He'll be in there for a half. Oh, got to go back to McCown. Hackenberg's not ready. I mean, it really is. I have never, ever in my entire life, over 40 years of watching football, have had such an upsetting situation with the quarterback position for my teams. It's amazing what I'm going through the last several years. And I can't catch a break with any of them. And I know the time is coming. It's coming. I mean, again, it might have to wait another year for Michigan and for Rutgers and for the Jets. Probably next year in 2018, I'll have Peters or McCaffrey under center for Michigan, Lewis on the center for Rutgers, and either Petty or a rookie quarterback for the Jets. And okay, that's whatever. And I'll take my lumps a little bit with inexperience, but at least I'll be young quarterbacks with talent. Yes, I've waited for years to watch young, even if they're going to make mistakes, young quarterbacks with talent. I've waited a long time, and I'm willing to deal with it. Boy, how about that quarterback situation with the Broncos with Trevor Siemian, huh? Remember the beginning of the season, Siemian had a couple of those good games, and all this talk about Trevor Siemian this and Trevor Siemian that. And remember we referenced that big game he had early in the season last year with the Bengals, and he had a tremendous game. And then it was the same thing. Oh, Trevor Siemian this and that. And so when this happened again, we warned everybody. When he got off to the good start after the first couple of games, we warned everybody. Nobody wanted to listen, I guess. Or at least some didn't want to listen. And we just talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Denver Broncos are not going to the Super Bowl with Trevor Siemian. It's not going to happen. So forget it. And look at this AFC situation. Now, some people might go, I mean, I heard somebody today talking about how, the Patriot defense is back. The Patriot defense is back. So what were we saying? So what I saw the week before against the Jets, what was that? I don't understand. That situation, what was it? McCown had over 300 yards passing. Did I miss something? If Jenkins scores the touchdown, which everybody know he should have, that's actually, who knows? Maybe the Jets win the game. Maybe they pull it out. Who knows? And that's not because of the Jet defense. That's the Jet offense. I mean, one game against the Falcons and the Patriot defense is all of a sudden back? No. Did anybody watch the Falcons play recently? Oh, yeah, but the Dolphins have a good defense, and Buffalo's physical, and they've got pass rushing, and Patriots don't have that. So, yeah, that's right. That didn't change. Gilmore didn't even play. What was it? Falcons. That's what it was. It was the Falcons. So sure, the Patriots defense played better. Yeah, okay. I mean, we didn't think it was that bad in the first place. But they're not last year's defense. They're not a Super Bowl defense. Again, if they're going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to have to win like the way the Rams won the Super Bowl. They're going to have to outscore teams. And Brett Hundley, yep, look, another guy that we talked about with Dan Shanka on Scouting Section, one of the 3 profiles we did today, and I agree with Dan. Don't see it with Hundley. I said it last week. I did say, look, I'll give him a shot. So it was Minnesota. It was 1 game. I'll give him a shot. But I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I do not see it. I mean, you have to see it. There's certain things. It's like what I've always seen in Deshaun Watson. It's the exact opposite of what I have seen in Deshaun Watson. Is that, okay, Watson doesn't do this right. He's not good with this. He's got these issues. He's got to watch this. But there's the thing that Deshaun Watson has that you can see. That just, if you've been watching football as long as I have, that you just know he has it. And Brett Hundley doesn't have it. That's the thing. See, Hundley's got some decent, size and athletic ability. He's got a lot of what you're looking for. I mean, there's no reason. In his 3rd year in the system, there is no reason for Brett Hundley to not look as good as Deshaun Watson right now, right off the bat. No reason. Especially against the Saint defense in his first start. No reason. No excuse. And it's not like it was like, well, he threw for 340 yards. He had 3 picks, 1 touchdown, and you saw stuff. Yeah, but I saw this, I noticed this. Okay, those are mistakes that could be correctable. It wasn't about mechanics or mistakes. It was about it. Does he have it? And Brett Hundley doesn't have it. You can see it. There's no it there. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't think about it. I didn't think he had it last week. I gave him the benefit of the doubt this week. I'm not saying he can't turn it around. It's always possible. But, boy, the odds are so stacked against him now. And the idea of possibly him being somebody that might be that guy. Oh, where did he come from? Rookie type guy. Well, look, he's good. Packers would be better than we thought they would be without him. We shouldn't have given up on them. Nope, it's gone. My boy Aaron Jones looks good, though, doesn't he? Boy, I hit it with that one. And that it factor, you could see with Aaron Jones. And I must applaud Mike McCarthy for being smart. Now, it was funny, though. Beginning of the game, Aaron Jones busts loose for that big touchdown. So everything is going good. Jones is looking good the first few series. And then what does he do? He goes to the Ty Montgomery series. And then what happens on the Ty Montgomery series? They hand the ball off to Montgomery on that short yardage situation, and he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage. It wasn't one of those situations where, he gets the ball and he gets tackled. He got the ball, and he kind of was like, he stood there, kind of like looking for somewhere to run, and then he get hit. You got to be decisive. But again, Ty Montgomery's not a running back. Sure, he just played the position before many years ago. But he was forced into the role last year. Now they've got to stop. They get Jamal Williams back and healthy. Okay, that's it. Just use him, as we've said before. You use him as sort of like an H-back, a slot weapon. You can't have more weapons. Put him in the backfield with Jones, but he can't. I mean, and you know what? Look, they only used him sparingly, but it was just obvious. As soon as Jones came out and Montgomery tried to run, it was like, this is night and day. But Jones has the it factor. We talked about it after he got an opportunity to play that first game a couple weeks ago against Chicago. And we said, remember, we talked about how the first few carries and such, he kind of looked tentative. But then all of a sudden, he started to look the part. But it wasn't like an explosion, but it was enough where with the injury situation, that's why we talked about picking him up. said, I saw enough. I saw enough in those little glimpses that it looked like something was coming, that confidence was there. But he just needed a full week of practice and reps and to start the next week, which happened when Montgomery didn't get the reps, and he did against Dallas. And then that was it. Now, that's not going to save them. You can forget it. The Packers are done this season. I mean, they don't have their secondary is still a work in progress, and they just got to hope that the guys back there, the young kids, just get better. That's all. I mean, there's nothing else you can do, and it's sad. It really is. But hey, you know what? I mean, whether or not you want to say Mike Mitchell did it, whatever that was on purpose or not, nobody knows. With Alex Smith a couple weeks ago, nobody knows. But with Aaron Rodgers' injury, what almost could have happened to Alex Smith, and what we saw last night with Claiborne, this is just stupid. See, these guys that are injuring these superstar quarterbacks, seriously, does someone need to sit them down to make them understand that if the superstar quarterbacks aren't playing, then the game suffers, you suffer. And between that and the pick plays that just drive you insane now every week. Everybody runs pick plays now. It's so insane. Everybody. And it drives you nuts. Pick play after pick play after pick play. That's all they do now. And between the pick plays and want to trash the quarterbacks, it's like, when did we get into the situation where teams were so unconfident in their own ability, from the coaching staff to the players, that they can't beat the other team without injuring quarterbacks and picking players? When did we get that way? It used to be you line up, especially in the older days. I'm not even talking about, in the 60s or the 30s. I'm talking about even in the 80s, when they actually ran the ball more. They had fullbacks and tight ends. I'm not saying we need to go back to that. I'm just saying, in the old days, for me, watching, it was more of, pretty much what's coming. It didn't have these exotic offenses and everybody's trying to do this and that and pass this and pass this situation. It wasn't that. It was, what's coming, and we're going to try to beat you mano a mano. And that's what was part of loving football. But now we got to injure quarterbacks because we're not good enough to beat you without them. And we got to play the death out of you because we can't do it fairly. Because I don't care what anybody says. Because, see, what they try to do is they try on these pick plays to get it so where their player is getting knocked in to like their own player. Like they're knocking their own player into the other player. So it's fair. But it's a pick play. It's still a pick play, no matter whether they call it or don't call it. And it works. It's a pick play. And I mean, seriously, do you really need to do that? Yeah, apparently. I mean, trick plays are nice, but that's what they are. They're trick plays. And, it's sort of like, how batters in baseball get upset sometimes because the pitcher will throw an off-speed pitch, and the batter's like, oh, are you serious? I mean, can't you throw a fastball? See if your fastball beats me. You got to throw, you got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and you're throwing me a freaking off-speed pitch. That's the same thing. It's like, come on, man. You have to pick me, score a touchdown. Your guy can't beat out my guy. Is that where we are right now? And by the way, the Dirk Cutter days, we've said this for a year and a half. I mean, Tampa, that's a watch. And look, this is better for Tampa Bay. Just get it over with, because you are not going anywhere with Dirk Cutter. All you're going to do is prolong firing him. Remember, we said in the beginning of the year, all right, well, maybe they make the playoffs. It's possible. They could. And all that's going to do is prolong the inevitable. They have to get a real coach there now while they have Jameis Winston. Not a gimmicky offensive coach that statistically in certain weeks and over the season can make Jameis Winston look good. That's not going to be the best interest of Jameis Winston's progress, and it's not going to be the best interest of them winning games. Dirk Cutter should never have been a head coach in the NFL, ever. And I don't know about you, but outside of the Dallas fan base, one of the things that just makes me sick to my stomach every week is whether it's watching Ezekiel Elliott play, it's listening to the interviews about Ezekiel Elliott from the coach, from the players. It's the reporters asking him questions about stuff and being buddy with him. Let me just give you the scene here. The only difference between the reason why certain people aren't sick to their stomach about Ezekiel Elliott is because we have no video. It's the only reason. See, Ray Rice was banished from the NFL because of video. If you never saw Ray Rice on video, and he would have been suspended, he would have came back. He might even be still playing. But the video destroyed his career. And yet on the flip side, here we have somebody, same exact situation. He hasn't even been suspended yet. He's going to be. It's going to happen. The fact that he prolongs this just shows you the type of person he is. He actually thinks he's going to get away with this, which he's not. He's going to miss games. And then throw in the fact that he's going to go out there and he's going to score touchdowns and he's going to look at the camera or he's going to look at the fans. He's going to have his little gyrations. And just imagine if you were the girl that he tormented, if that was your sister, your mother, I don't know, your cousin. Just imagine how that would make you feel every time you watched him do that. Every time you listened to a reporter ask him a question about, with a smile on it, oh, how was the game, Zeke? How did you do? How did it all go? Was it hard for you? Are you doing okay, Zeke? The only difference, the only reason that a certain percentage of football fans and people, because there's enough people who are sick to their stomach about football players right now, but the only reason why the average person isn't sick to their stomach about Ezekiel Elliott is video. That's it. Period. And I can't believe in this day and age, with everything we have seen, including Ray Rice, from what we know about what went on with Ezekiel Elliott, that people aren't sick to their stomach. And that people can just be okay about this. And it's just, because I'm not saying everybody. No, there are people out there that are annoyed. But I'm just not seeing it enough. And I'm not seeing it enough definitely when I'm watching him on TV and when I'm watching either him personally or his teammates or his coaching staff or reporters. I'm not seeing it. But watch a video come out in a couple hours. A video surfaces in a couple of hours and shows you exactly what happened with him. He won't see a football field for a year. And he'll be begging for forgiveness. But that's the society we live in now. We have to see it. We have to hear it. It's like this I don't even know what word to use from this guy in California. I don't know. This producer, that's the reason why people are sick to their stomach about him. They weren't sick to their stomach before, but the reason they're sick to their stomach now, why? Because they heard him. That's why. Why do we have to constantly wait to hear or see people doing things that we know they did? I don't get it. I just don't. I don't understand. I mean, I can understand for kids, teenagers, 20-something-year-olds. You're impressionable. You're easily gullible. But I mean, there's enough people in this world that are 35, 40 years old and older, and I'm just, I don't know. I don't get it. He'll get his. That's all I know. All right, let's talk fantasy football with Jamal Murphy. And a lot to talk about here in a short period of time with Jamal. So let's get right to it. Jamal, everything okay after that Jet game yesterday?
For me, I mean, I guess they're almost back to where we thought they were. Still a little better, but yeah, that was a horrible loss.
Yeah, it's always tough. It's always tough to lose a game that you're supposed to win. But hey, you know what? There's always tomorrow. It's a rebuild. So I think there's a lot of positives to take out of it. Fantasy wise, there really isn't anything because Matt Forte wound up playing a little bit. So did Powell. But fantasy wise, you really at this point in time, you can't really do anything with Powell, right? Until like even next week, you can't. I don't think you can touch any of them until you see Powell probably go out there and get most of the carries again.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Their production was decent. I mean,
yeah, it was okay.
Both Forte and Powell gave you a little something.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing that's going to win you the week, but something that was decent. It was they didn't give you donuts. But it clutters it up. You don't know which one to play. You don't know if that type of situation is going to continue. So it is. You're right. It is the kind of thing you try to stay away from if you can.
All right, so let's get right to it. Cutler's out, so well, he's out for a little while. Palmer's out for looks like the year, but these are guys that probably aren't starters, I would think. So who knows? It all depends on where your quarterback situation was. Maybe if who knows? Maybe if you if you had Aaron Rodgers and then you had Palmer or Cutler come in. And now Palmer, especially Palmer, let's say he's gone. So what do you do? Who's out there right now? What type of quarterbacks that you think are more than likely available in the free agent market in the next 48 hours for you to pick up?
Well, Palmer in a deep league might have been a starter. You're right. And even Cutler in a crunch might have started for a few people. Palmer's backup, Drew Stanton, he's pretty horrible. I would stay away from him completely.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Moore actually looked pretty good yesterday against those Jets. So he has a history of being okay. You might want to take a chance on him. They have decent wide receiver weapons in Miami, as we saw yesterday too. Besides that, you got Josh McCown, the Jets quarterback, who's actually been decent this year. He's still available in most leagues. Most people know better than to have taken him already. But when you look at it, I mean, he's been better than Matt Ryan has been so far this year by the numbers, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe you look to trade for Matt Ryan. His owners, trade low for Matt Ryan. His owners aren't happy at all.
Yeah, you have Matt Ryan in our fantasy league, and then of course he's
killing me.
Yeah, but you went with Prescott, didn't you?
Oh yeah, in the league where I had a choice, but in the big leagues, I don't have a choice. I'm stuck with Matt Ryan. Maybe another league I have Stafford, so I guess I got to go Stafford the rest of the way.
Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that, though, especially they get Galladay back. I think that's the big difference, to tell you the truth, is they were he had, I think things were a lot better that first week or two because he had a guy play, he was a rookie, but he had size, and I think he brought that extra dimension to the offense that they didn't have, and they haven't had since, and that's why I think he struggled a little bit. So maybe with the week off to get Galladay back next week. So, and that's on Sunday night, right? That game, Detroit game with Pittsburgh? Okay. You can forget about Bortles or even Brissett. I don't think you'd want to go there. Keenum, maybe? I mean, would you think about Keenum? Because the pickings are slim when you take a look at what's out there.
Yeah, he's in the same boat as those guys. Even Eli Manning, I see available in some, in some decent sized leagues.
Who would you
You might want
trade
to stay away from
for?
him. He
Give me a
hasn't
guy
he
to
hasn't looked great.
give me a guy to trade for. So you take a look at the like for instance, you take a look at our league and some of the backups that are out there. So who would you trade for if you had no quarterback? Let's say you have this scenario where Palmer was your starter for some reason, and now you need a starter. Give me a guy that you think could be a backup that isn't on the waiver wire that you might be able to trade for. Sort of like you just said. I mean, is that Andy Dalton? Is it Matt Ryan? Who else is
Probably,
out there?
as a backup, I like the Matt Ryan idea because owners might be just so frustrated that you might be able to get him at a decent price, and hopefully he plays better the second half of the
How
season.
about Derek Carr?
But
I mean, in
it,
our
well,
league, I see teams with Russell Wilson and Derek Carr on the same team, and Drew Brees and Carson Wentz on the same team. So that right there, if you got that scenario, you want to call those guys up.
yeah, but you're gonna have to give up a lot too because though they have him on the roster for a reason. They don't want to give him up really. But yeah, if you come correct with top wide receiver or top running back, and they have a need, you have a shot there. The more realistic stuff is like a Philip Rivers type,
Okay.
who still has something in the tank and can produce points for you, but isn't really a top 10
How about
fantasy
Winston?
QB. Winston, probably you have a shot at him if he's backing up somewhere. He's been up and down. He's coming off a good fantasy week yesterday, so it might be tough to get him. Now you probably have to wait for him to have another bad week.
Or maybe even like in our league, you got somebody's got Mariota and Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And so that's also a possibility. Okay. What about some of the talent that's out there for the waiver wire process in the next 48 hours? Anybody that made an impact this week that, first of all, I don't think anybody's out there right now. It's been kind of dry the last couple of weeks. We go through these dry spells on the waiver wire where you look and you go, this is just so bad. I'm never going to pick anybody up a value the rest of the season. And then like a week or two goes by and it's like there's 12 guys to pick up in 1 week. And it's weird how that happens, but it's a dry spell right now.
Yeah, and especially this week, slim pickings out there, like you said. A couple guys that did a little something that you got to take notice of. O.J. Howard, the rookie tight end at Tampa Bay. He has all his potential. Everybody expected him to be, a monster in the pros, and I think it was just a matter of time. He had his 6 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns
There
last
you
week. So
go.
maybe, just maybe,
Maybe.
that's his breakout game, and
Yeah.
maybe he starts producing at a level that will help your team
How about Travis
going
Benjamin?
forward. Yeah, Travis Benjamin did his thing. He's another guy you got to look at if he's available. I do see him available in most leagues. And there's a few wide receivers. Ted Ginn, he had his second straight good game for New Orleans. He had 7 catches, 141 yards after having a touchdown last week. So him and Breeze look like they have a connection. Remember, Ginn last couple of years in Carolina was a viable fantasy play when Cam Newton was throwing deep balls to him. So it looks like him and Breeze have that kind of connection where you can stick Ginn in your starting lineup occasionally. You got Kenny Stills I see available in some smaller leagues. He went off against the Jets. He had 9 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then a guy who's been on the radar before fell off, and now I think is back on it is Cooper Kupp, your guy, one of your favorites. He had 4 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown, 10 targets his way, and that's the second straight week where he's seen a lot of targets.
And what about Juju Smith? I mean, he's starting to get more. And look, it's you definitely know that he's going to wind up. His numbers are going to go up, especially if this whole Martavis Bryant thing really does escalate, and they trade him, or they just kind of bench him. I mean, I can't imagine. They're going to probably have to trade him if this continues because it's and now who knows. Again, I haven't heard him say it. I hate when we always hear this is what he's saying, then he comes out and denies it, Then the game happens. Again, he doesn't say anything. Somebody says, no, but this is what's going on. So we don't know what to believe because he hasn't said anything. And then they want to go and look at a tweet. And okay, it's not a great tweet, but he hasn't said anything. So unless he comes out, I mean, if he wants to get traded, then he would say it, wouldn't he? I mean, then say it. And I'm not hearing him say that, but still, it's an issue.
Yeah, something's going on there. I don't know what the tweet. The tweet was a little crazy. Didn't sound happy in the tweet. Whatever he meant by it. Now, is he going to get traded? We don't know. That's why with that situation, you kind of have to wait and see what happens. The NFL trades don't happen as easily as in other sports. So that's why you definitely have to stay away from him. Juju, maybe he's a pickup if you're desperate at wide receiver.
Okay.
Ben seems to like him, so
Yeah.
it might be worth taking a chance.
Yeah, Ben actually plays better in the second half. Then that could be a guy that maybe you work into. I mean, look at Paul Richardson. I mean, Paul Richardson's a guy that he's available in some places, and other places he's not, and that's because of the fact. I mean, he's really more valuable in leagues like we have. I know I'm in two separate types of leagues. One where you don't get any credit for targets or any of that stuff, and it's only basically your standard scoring. And I can understand why he's not as important, but still, he's a guy that if he doesn't score a touchdown, it's. But the thing is, it's like he's scoring a touchdown usually like every other game, and that puts him like at 10 or 12 points a week. And it's not the worst idea in the world if you're looking for a guy just to kind of throw in there if you have issues and you just want some stability. I'm actually surprised he doesn't get more targets.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on over there, but no, you're right. I mean, he's getting looks. You could do a lot worse than putting him in. He is, like you said, he is touchdown dependent, but he is getting touchdowns every now and then.
And by the way, Dwayne Brown ends his holdout. So we'll see. I mean, Deshaun Watson. I don't know what else he needs, but now he's got a new left tackle. So look out, because I've never jumped off the Houston bandwagon, and I'm not doing it now the way they played, even without J.J. Watt. So now they get Dwayne Brown. So boy, Deshaun Watson. I mean, isn't it amazing between Hunt and Watson? You got two rookies that are like the best players in fantasy football this year.
Yeah, no, it's pretty ridiculous, and neither one was predicted to be that guy that would go off in his first year, and both have. So yeah, that's amazing.
And Joe Thomas is out for the year. Not that anybody
Right.
would have had Cleveland anyway. Any players on the Browns. So you're not going to be picking up Deshaun Kaiser or Cody Kessler or Kevin Hogan anytime soon, right?
No.
All right, Jamal. So and your waiver wire report comes out tomorrow. We'll take a look at it at ourlads.com, correct?
Yep, tonight or tomorrow morning.
And everything.
That'll be out.
And that's an opportunity to find out. Usually you have what, about 8 players or something like that in there, in that range?
Yeah, about 6 to 8.
Top guys.
There.
Okay. All right, and then we'll also, of course, talk some NBA basketball with you with the Nets on tomorrow night's show. So that's a good thing. See, as Jet fans, but the Nets, hey, we're 2-1. So
yeah, Nets looking okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. We'll talk some Nets basketball tomorrow night. So, and you'll be on. You're going to the game tomorrow night, right? Or they're on the road tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday night with Cleveland. You won't be going to Orlando tomorrow night then?
No,
right?
no,
Okay.
I'm going to stay here in New York.
Okay. All right, Jamal. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, sounds good.
All right, that's Jamal Murphy at Blackatologist. That's his Twitter handle. And he's with us every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock to get you ready on game day, along with Dan Weinrich, for our fantasy football coverage right here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. All right, so there you go. How's my fantasy team looking? Let's see. I have a win this week. I wasn't playing a very good team. And let's see. Right now, with my fantasy team, I had a good week. I had my Jacksonville defense that went off on the Colts. I wanted more points, though, than 23. I mean, he had 10 sacks and a shutout. But he didn't have a touchdown. I'll have to talk about that with these guys on Sunday morning. I mean, I think in fantasy, you should have more emphasis on what goes on the entire game as opposed to one play. I mean, because the fact that they dominated the entire game should mean more than, let's say if a guy fumbled at the 2-yard line and the other guy just kind of picked it up and walked in, they get some instant impact. It's like, come on. I mean, I'd rather have the all game sacks and domination and shutout. But that's why Jamal talked about on our show earlier this season. You just don't worry about defense very much. And that's a good example. I mean, I have Evan Ingram. He's starting to come into his own now as my top tight end all year, my only tight end all year. Kelvin Benjamin, I'm still kind of unnerved there with what's going on recently. But Le'Veon Bell is my guy. I have him in both fantasy teams. So I'm pretty happy about that. I had the second pick in Jamal's league, and they went with David Johnson, so I got Le'Veon Bell. In my other league, it's a league where we get to pick which, like the player, the owner from the worst team last year gets to decide where he wants to pick. So by the time I came around, I think it was whatever, I don't remember where it was, 5th or 6th. I got to decide where I wanted to go, and one was still available, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that. I want a player that I know that, because I really felt, and I think we saw that with Kunt, that I want a guy that if I felt that there was this like, oh yeah, I can't get past 5, I can do anywhere from, I think there's like 5 or 6 or 8 guys that you don't want to get past, but once you get past, they're a big drop off. I didn't think that was the case, and I think we've kind of seen that. I think it was just Johnson and Bell. Of course, you go to the receivers, but I kind of thought that was it. And then there's a drop off. Not a drop off majorly, but enough where you knew like player 3 through 10 or 11, you can kind of be, pretty equal. So I said this year, I'm just going to go with Bell. So I was happy. I got Bell in both leagues, and that kind of cool, and as long as he doesn't get hurt. I did pick up Connor, though, in my other league. The league with Jamal, I didn't, but I did pick him up in the other league because I figured I can't lose him and not have somebody back there that I know may not be bad. I mean, Connor looks like if he got an opportunity to play with Bell being out for a week or two, he can do a decent job. So I think it was worth it. And of course I had Aaron Rodgers on that team, and he's out for the year. So Phillip Rivers was my backup. So it's not the worst backup in the world, but I am very happy with Mark Ingram and Doug Martin. I was able to get late because he was suspended, so that's turned into a decent pickup too. But I've been very unhappy, obviously, with Marshawn Lynch. That hasn't worked out. I also picked up Jamal Charles later, so I was waiting to see if that would work out. That hasn't worked out yet. So some things have worked out, some haven't, and that's why I'm 4-3. Okay, so that'll wrap it up for the show today. Now, we are going to be back again every Monday to wrap up the weekend in the NFL and college football, and also all week long for more coverage here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. No programming tomorrow for football, but we are back again on, Thursday and Friday. So actually, it's now, just so you know, it's 3 days a week now. We have no more Wednesday show with Dan Shanka because we have changed that over to having his profiles. And they're like anywhere from 7 to 10 minute profiles of players. So again, those are going to be available on demand. Bradley Chubb, Harold Landry, and Brett Hundley earlier today. So those will be popping up throughout the weeks, all the way through till the end of the season, and then we'll do a boatload of scouting reports before the draft. So it's Monday, this show, Thursday NFL preview with Tony Mejia, Friday college football preview, and then Sunday morning fantasy football preview. So we'll see you on Thursday. And don't forget about our content. Jamal's going to have his fantasy football content ready for you. So check that out either late tonight, more than likely first thing tomorrow. We'll tweet that out, let you know. Don't forget to follow us at Prime SN for those Twitter announcements and when you can take a look at the content or our shows when they're available on demand. We have a YouTube page, an iTunes page on the Prime Sports Network. And also don't forget, best depth charts in the business for both the NFL and college football at Ourlads.com. So thanks for Jamal Murphy for checking in to talk fantasy football, and Greg DePalma. We will see you next Monday right here on OFN Weekend Review.